So I'm gonna use Maslow's hierarchy of needs to explain what's going on in my life right now. And this is a pyramid. Fun fact though is that Abraham Maslow, psychologist, didn't actually draw the pyramid. When he was laying out these concepts in a book, he was talking about a hierarchy, talking about lower needs and higher needs, but he didn't actually draw the pyramid. I learned that it was some uh, some business some business management firm that ended up drawing the pyramid as a visual, and it's what they were using in their consulting or whatever. So he didn't draw the pyramid, but the concepts are his. That's why we say it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, I used the visual of a pyramid to help myself conceptualize what he was talking about. Okay. And then maybe later, if there's time, I'm going to explain a new way to think of these concepts, right? A different visual that another psychologist in more recent years has been putting out there. But I use this pyramid to help me understand this. And let me just explain what the concepts are here. At the lowest level, at the base of the pyramid, is the physiological needs, like what your physical body needs. Like you need air to breathe, you need enough warmth, like enough heat in the body for the organs to work how they're supposed to. You need enough sleep, rest, right, for you to recover, regenerate cells in all the organs in your body. And then you need enough water. We're over 90% of our body is made of water. The idea is that we need water for everything in our body to work, and we need food. So we kind of know these things already, right? This is what you need to stay alive. And then once you have those needs satisfied, you can think about the higher needs. The next one on top is the safety. And this is like safety and security, and it's a lot of the physical idea of safety, like making sure nothing can harm you, making sure that you're not going to get hurt, you're not going to get killed. So when we're thinking about satisfying that needs, we need to protect ourselves from threats. It also applies to emotional safety though, not just with the physical safety, but feeling safe emotionally. And so that's when you think about it that way, that's when the social aspect starts to come in, right? Having social needs, right? Who you're dealing with, who's around you, for physical safety, but especially for emotional safety, things get more complex. And one important thing to note is that because we live in this society that where money is very important, money is going to pay for a lot of our survival. Like everything on the physiological needs is paid for with money. Having shelter where we can make sure we have enough warmth and have a place to sleep is paid with for money, and we provide our shelter with money, like housing. So we rent or we buy property and we use money. Same thing, right? We buy food and we buy water. We don't really buy the air, so that's one thing you're not paying for. You can take a deep breath without paying for it with money. But I bring money up because financial security, making sure you have enough money to pay for everything you need, is part of this one right here, safety. So when you're feeling like you have needs for money, when it has to do with your financial security, we're talking about the safety there, safety and security. Now, when you have these first two levels of needs satisfied, then you will think about higher needs, right? The needs are met, but there's more needs to think about. So you go to love and belonging, having loving relationships in your life and feeling like you belong to a people, a group of people, having that sense of belonging. Once those needs are met, then you have the esteem needs. Um, in a social group, this can be like recognition, having recognition for your work, for doing good things, or just for who you are, feeling seen, truly seen for who you are by others. And a lot of this too, like when you hear the word self-esteem in psychology, it's, do you hold esteem for yourself? And you can have accomplishments that other people recognize you for, but do you have the self-esteem? Now, typically, I think people have the self-esteem first and then go and accomplish great things. But that is what esteem is about. It's being good for who you are individually. Then you have self-actualization. That is the point where you have satisfied all the other needs and you simply need to be yourself to enjoy life. If all these other needs are met, then you reach the self-actualization where you are completely 100% truly yourself. In one sense, it's kind of like freedom to be who you are. In another sense, it's kind of like an evolution or a full development of who you are. Now, what I want to note about this is that it's not like a video game where you're like passing on to the next level. So you're at the first level and you're trying to figure out how to beat it. Once you pass the level, once you like pass it, you get to the next one, then you never need to go back to the first one. You only need the first one to get to the second one. This is like you need to satisfy all of them. Like you can think about it like these are your needs in any given moment, and you can think about it in the bigger picture. So let me show you an example. So like in any given moment, you have physiological needs at the same time that you have higher needs, right? In any given moment, you need to take a breath. You need to be inhaling, you need to be exhaling. You can hold your breath for a few seconds, but you can't hold your breath for too long, right? The idea of like holding your breath underwater. You can hold your breath for like what, 10 minutes? Not even 10 minutes, what the heck? I mean, most people can barely hold their breath for 1 minute. But what I'm talking about is like, you know for sure the need for air is something very, very urgent. And you know that in any given moment, you do need that air, right? Now we know the body can maintain warmth, and you always need that warmth. But we know that body temperature tries to maintain, no matter what the temperature is, ambient temperature outside of your body is, we know your body's going to try to maintain temperature. So it has mechanisms to kick on the heater, the body's internal heater, and maintain that warmth. So your body's doing things that it needs. And if you need a little extra help, that's why we wear clothes, put on extra layers. Or that's why we use other heat sources to warm us up. But what I'm saying is like, you can measure these things in any given moment, or you can stretch the time frame and look at bigger time frames to understand how the different needs create a dynamic experience for you. So you're not always hungry, right? But you know when you need food. Supposedly you know when you need food because when you're hungry. Sometimes you shouldn't listen to your body. It's telling you too often that you're hungry. You shouldn't be eating that much. But this is the idea, right? Is that we don't always need food every minute of the day, but we need it once or a few times a day. At the minimum, I think you need food like once every 3 weeks or something. You need water like at least once every 3 days. If you don't, you die. You need air like enough oxygen every 3 minutes, or else you die. So there's the part where like if you don't, you die. Your life is over. That's physiological. But then there's standards to it. Is like you determining whether you're going to eat once a day or multiple times a day, determining how much water you will have in a day, how much sleep you're getting, right? These are the physiological needs that that are urgent, that become very urgent, and you look at them on whatever time frames you look at it. But typically, you try to think about these things from day to day. Okay. Not even that you need to try to look at them from day to day. You just have to. There's actually like physiological signals, physiological impulses that will tell you to pay attention to these needs. Now, in the safety category of needs, you won't necessarily have physiological signals that tell you to pay attention to those needs, but we do develop those physiological signals, right, based on emotional signals. So we learn to care about safety and security, and then we have like triggers, right, or we have cues that tell us to pay attention to those needs, or being aware of how much safety we have. So when you're there, I mean, you want to feel safe. At the same time, you want to have your physiological needs met. You also want to be safe at the same time. And thinking about safety needs doesn't mean you just disregard any physiological needs. Sometimes, in order to be safe, maybe you do. Maybe as a part of you pursuing financial security, which is satisfying a safety need, you may feel like you have to eat less or sleep less, drink less water. You may feel thirsty, telling you need to satisfy that need, but you have to wait because you don't have an opportunity to take a break from work and go get some water or food. So that doesn't necessarily mean you what I mean, like, you're not going to disregard it in the sense where you won't need it anymore. You still do need it. You're just going to disregard it for a moment. So when we're thinking about time frames, we're thinking about in that moment, or we thinking in that day, we thinking in the week, time frames. And so my point is that you need to satisfy your needs on all of these levels, and then the conditions in your life tend to change. So when you depend on certain conditions in your life to help you maintain the physiological needs and the safety needs, those are the lower needs. But when you have some type of change in life, then you may have to switch it up, may have to find new ways of satisfying the needs. And so all of that, just to explain the pyramid here, and what I really want to say is what's going on with me, right? So in my life, I feel like I do pretty well satisfying all these needs. Now, I pay attention to my health. Like in the recent years, I've focused on eating less. Through my 20s, I got used to eating a whole lot, and it never really became too much of a problem. There were other times, like during my 20s, that I would eat a lot less. I'd do intermittent fasting. I would reduce my meals to like one meal a day. A lot of times I was just working so much, and I was trying to make healthy choices with what I eat that I wouldn't eat bad. But now, fast forward to a different time, and I'm busy. I'm a lot busy working, and then I'm really busy trying to start a family. My wife was pregnant, and then we had the first baby, and that's really hard, having a baby, especially when it's your first time. So being so occupied with those other things in my life, I didn't put too much focus on healthy eating or reducing the eating. I gained weight, and so in the recent years, I've been on top of it with eating, and I lost a bunch of weight for it. It was cool. But more than that, I feel the energy and the vitality that goes with eating healthy. And I get a lot of movement, of course, exercise. That's a big part of health. It's not necessarily what we're talking about here in the needs, right? Maslow didn't believe necessarily maybe that you needed a movement. Maybe because back in those days, everyone had to be moving around. Not like nowadays, people just be posted up, sitting down for hours and hours and hours and hours on end. But anyways, not to get distracted here, I'm just trying to say that I have changed the standards for eating. Nonetheless, I still have a need for food, but it's dynamic. The need for food is dynamic. How do I know how much I really need? I mean, as long as I don't die, I'm good, right? But this, the beautiful thing is that I am also determining what my standards are for eating based on other standards. So if I want to lose weight, then I eat less. If I want to gain muscle, then I eat protein. Right? So it's the idea, like based on these other standards, I'll choose a standard for eating, and then living in the condition where I haven't ate more than 3,000 calories in months, all of a sudden my need for food is changing. As opposed to when I used to be foodie and I used to be just grubbing all the time, my need for food was huge. So my point is that these things are dynamic. Your needs is dynamic, and so what I want to talk about is like another example, like me wanting to find more esteem. Like I have some esteem, but I want more. It made me have to figure out some stuff down here. And the way I looked at it was like, if I'm gonna become a better person, I need to be healthier physiologically. I need to have more safety and security, which I saw that built a lot of confidence in me. And like working on these lower needs, changing the standards and stuff, helped me become a stronger and happier person to do well in these higher levels. I brought more love in my life the happier I became. I was in tune with where that sense of belonging was coming from. Or if I wanted to belong to a different group, I was becoming aware, just figuring out how to satisfy the higher needs. I started to realize, okay, fix the bottom and build a stronger base, build on top of that, boom. And it started to become true for me. Okay, so where am I at right now in life? Right now I am where I'm feeling like now I really want to focus a whole lot more on here. Like I reach self-actualization, and that those needs are at the front of my mind in moments, and then I don't feel like it's enough. So here I go again, reflecting to think about what it's going to take. One huge thing to explain. Let me see if I can pull in another note here. One huge thing to explain is how okay, I do have a note for this. So let me put that aside. Let me explain something else. I'll bring those notes back in at some point, but let me take you here. So as a provider to my family, this is about the role that I'm playing, right? So put Maslow's things aside. I'm gonna make the connection in a minute, okay? Give me a chance here. Provider to my family, the role that I play in my family. And thinking of myself as, thinking of my identity determined by the roles I play for other people is a huge thing. I forgot where I got that concept, but there was somebody who even wrote a book about it. But anyways, provider to my family. I just think that way this now. I don't even talk about the concept, but I'm a provider to my family. It's important to me that I provide financial security for my family. That's a value. It's my personal value. Okay, so based on that value, then I determine a whole bunch of other things for my life. Okay, now in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we might say this is actually safety needs. When you think about it, we're talking about financial security, so that must be the safety stuff, safety and security. Okay, when I follow it, I'm saying that I have committed to an inspector role at BV. So I have my employer BV is giving me this job. I'm committed to doing the job and the responsibilities that come with it, and that is how I'm satisfying the safety need there. Okay. Now, when you really think about it, though, what I was talking about over there with the pyramid is that I'm thinking about self-actualization, right? And this is like in the bigger picture, in the grand scheme of things. I'm thinking about self-actualization. Now, I have the conditions in my life where I can think about my self-actualizing needs in moments. And some days I do feel like the whole day was me being able to think about my self-actualizing needs. It's a trip, huh? But I want more of that. Damn. I mean, not that I'm greedy. It's just the natural course for humans. I have set up my life in a way where the conditions make it easy for me to satisfy all these other needs. Not necessarily easy, but like I'm able to do it every day. So it's only natural that I think about taking this to another level. I guess it's natural for me. Okay, it's natural for me. But I think many humans would be the same way. But I don't know, who knows? That's a topic for another day. Maybe that's what makes us different. Okay. But when we're talking about this whole thing that's going on, well, I need to make money for my family. I need an income. What I'm really doing though is like the love and the belonging part. Like I'm building my own family. So like I was saying, these needs are dynamic. At this point in my life, building my own family is one of the most important things in my life. My needs for love and belonging are different. And so a part of that is providing financial security to my family. But doing that actually gets more esteem. I'm respectable. I mean, my family, my wife and my daughters, they love it. And they're going to respect me for it. But not like, hey, they better respect me, but like, you respect a man who takes care of his family, so they will, and so will others. And I'm gonna feel good about it. I'm gonna have self-esteem for taking care of them like that, right? And being in the place where I serve this role as the provider, I'm gonna feel self-actualized. I'm reaching my true self, my full potential. Right, so I'm touching a full stream here, from the top of the pyramid, from the bottom of the pyramid to the top, back down again. Being so excited about being able to do this helps me satisfy all the other needs because I'm so motivated, so excited, pumps me up, right? But there is a problem to solve. It's not like I'm in a horrible situation, but it's just kind of how my brain works. I see the problem. Let's figure out how to fix it. Okay. So let me explain what happens there. On this job, I have to be on call 24. It actually used to be 24/7. Now it's 24 hours for 6 days straight. Yeah. It's crazy, dude. They have us sleeping very minimally sometimes. Okay. Now what that leads to, and what you're going to see, I'm going to have some other notes here coming down this way. Just I'm gonna mention them because it's gonna be hard not to pay attention to them. But what you'll see is like present, father and husband, family leader, and a tribe leader. These are other values that I have, and thinking about the role that I play in other people's lives, I've written it like that's a part of it. And so earlier I said something about my identity determined by what role I play in other people's lives, and that's about self-actualization. So that's why I wrote it like that and make the connection to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs to say, um, like in this place where I am a present father and husband, where I am a family leader, right? That's me self-actualized. But here's what I'm trying to help you follow the logic here. Because of this on-call status for 6 days straight, there's a limit to my autonomy. A limit to my autonomy. For those of you that don't really understand the autonomy, I mean, most of the time people use this word to refer to your ability to control yourself. I want to, and this is what it means. Now, I want to give you this understanding of it as freedom, because we'll say there's like two types of freedom. There's, and in general, we value freedom. Now, there's freedom. One type of freedom is called liberty. Liberty is the freedom from external constraints. So you being free to do things without external factors, without anything outside of you stopping you, hindering you, limiting you. Okay, that is the liberty side of freedom. Autonomy is very interesting. Check it out. Autonomy is the freedom from internal constraints. That's very interesting. It's the idea that you're free to do what you want without yourself holding you back. That's very interesting, huh? Now, I'm talking about autonomy, about internal constraints when I'm talking about the job, but the job's not me holding me back, right? No, but I'm committed to the job. What's the opposite of freedom? What's the opposite of freedom? Can't say lack of freedom, but actually, in the way that I'm talking about it, the opposite of freedom is commitment. So when you, so you can look at it different ways, right? But when you have freedom, it doesn't mean that you have an object. Doesn't necessarily mean you have like a specific ability to do a specific thing. Doesn't mean that you have a specific power to do something. So what are we talking about? Why do we say you have this? Like, what is this? What is the something? You have freedom. What is the freedom? Right? Well, think about it from commitment. What is commitment? And then we can think about how they're opposites, because when you think about giving your commitment, like you're going to choose in the future according to a decision you're making now. So it's like, if I choose to be committed to this job, then I will choose what I do in the future according to my commitment to this job. So when I accept the offer letter, now I'm committed to the job, and now I have to choose to go and do the job, do what they need from me into the future. The commitment is such with the job that if I don't choose according to the commitment, then I lose my job, right? Then it's like I break the commitment, and then they can fire me for that. So this is the idea of commitment. Now, when you do these things, you do these commitments, you can do commitments to all kinds of things. But when you do commitments, like a lot of people, I think of relationship, a committed relationship, or the ultimate commitment, like marriage. But you make a decision one day, and then you make all these other choices into the future according to that decision. So the opposite is freedom. where you can choose to do whatever you want, despite whatever has happened in the past, despite any other circumstances. It's like the idea of freedom, right? So really, it's like how much, really the questions or what we're dealing with is like how much freedom do we have in our lives? And then we're also dealing with how we make commitments. And so every time you make commitment, you take away from your freedom. So the more committed of a person you are, the less freedom you have. Isn't commitment good? Yeah, it can be good, right? And isn't freedom good? Yeah. It's like an inherent value for us. We just, no need to explain it. It just feels good, right? How could they be opposites, but they're both good? You know, things don't need to be like good and evil, good and bad to be opposites. Like, there's up and there's down. Which one is good? Which one's bad? And like, well, up is good. Being up, you know, maybe. Shouldn't. What about down? Like being in first place versus being in third place. Three is bigger than one. But, you know, then we can like put all kinds of twists on it, right? Oh, we're going uphill battle or downhill battle. It's all downhill from here, meaning like it's easy because it's easier to go downhill than it is to go uphill, right? Some people would say the opposite, but like, so the whole point is like these, you know, opposite words don't inherently have like a good and bad thing to them. Like in the example with freedom and commitment, freedom is a good thing. Commitments are a good thing. You know, they can be a bad thing. Like if you're making commitments that don't serve you in designing your life the way you want to, then it's a bad commitment. Am I there? Is my commitment to my job a bad thing now? I would say no. But I foresee a possible future where my commitment does become a bad thing. And hey, be quiet out there. Somebody's just yelling crazy. I kind of want to see who that is. Yeah, I don't know. I can't see who that is from here, but it's her out there. Anyways, they're killing the time here and they're taking up more storage space. So let me get back on track. What we have is 6 days on-call status. Means a limit on my autonomy, a limit on my freedom from internal constraints, because I have made the commitment to the job, and the job entails the on-call status 6 days straight. Actually, it used to be 24/7. Oh, I think I said that already. But so this was a cool upgrade that happened recently. But still, that creates a limit on my autonomy. I have made that commitment. That is my decision. It is my choice to continue that commitment. But that holds me back from making other decisions for myself. Well, how? Right? Well, I want to take you down. Limit on intentionality. This is what I'm about to explain, how the limit on autonomy creates a limit on my intentionality. It's kind of like the same thing, Eli. It's not even worth saying. I know. If you don't think it's worth going through, then get out of this video. Don't listen to me anymore. Okay? But obviously, I think it's worth it for some reason. If you think I'm just a joke, totally fine. We don't have to be in each other's lives. But if you trust that it is valuable to go through this, then bear with me here, okay? Now I'm going to point back to these values over here. Being a present father and husband. I'm going to start with that one. Let's start just with one. Being a present father and husband. So I want to be around my kids. in simple terms, working so much means less time with my kids. Simple, right? Working so much means less time with my kids. But here's the thing. When on-call status, I don't choose when I work. The most I know, like in advance, is like 2 days. And like that'll happen like once every 2 months that I know 2 days out when I'm gonna work. And then, even though I'm scheduled for a certain time to work, it can change. So I really like only know like on average, I only know like 10 hours in advance when I'm gonna work. And then sometimes it's so bad where it's like I only know 1 hour in advance. I get a call and it's like, you gotta be there in an hour. I'm like, what? I could be like in the middle of having a meal. I could be at the park with my kids. I could be like in the middle of a workout. So it's pretty messed up. And so because I have the commitment to the job, then I don't have the choice. If I choose to continue the commitment, then I don't have the freedom to choose other things when I'm being asked to show up to work, like with the on-call status. Okay, so it creates a limit on intentionality. What I'm explaining is like I don't really have much of a say. I can't plan, right? It's unpredictable. Like I would need more predictability to be more intentional with my time. And talking about like being on top of my health and creating a bigger base of addressing my physiological needs. Like I need to balance multiple things, like my family life, my health life, and my work life. Like I need to find better alignment. But I will never reach better alignment with the 6 days on-call status. So this is the main thing that's going on. And then there's other things. So I think like a whole separate video would be me talking about this this problem, like what will drive me out. But again, all I'm explaining is that I see how my commitment to the job creates a limit on my autonomy. It's obvious to see that, but that creates a limit on how intentional I can be. When you live in it, you understand it. And as I explain it, you probably understand, right? Having minimal predictability to like no predictability, right? Means that I have a limit on how intentional I can be with my life. And because I cannot be more intentional, I can try to be like more and more intentional, but I'm a very intentional person, even coming into the job. So it's like at this point, like as I become more and more intentional, it doesn't make a big difference in my alignment. It does. I do find myself reaching more and more alignment with even in this job. That speaks to my other abilities, but yeah, because I see that I'm approaching a limit to the alignment, because there's just simply is a limit on intentionality, then I know that I will at some point reach a hard limit, a hard barrier. Like you cannot become more aligned in your life with these other things you want. And I don't think those self-actualizing needs are gonna go away. So instead of waiting till it gets so bad, instead of waiting till it's right in my face, I don't know when that limit's gonna come, but instead of waiting till I can see it, till when it is in sight, I'm gonna start thinking about how to change my career. Because it's not just about getting a new job, but it's like, what career path am I going to take? And so stay tuned, because I'll talk more about that. One more piece before I let you go real quick. There was this other psychologist who was talking about the sailboat as a different way. He's thinking like the lower needs are what keeps you safe and keeps you going in the water so you don't sink when you're on a boat. And then you have these other needs, like most importantly, like you need a sail to help you move around in the ocean. So you need something to keep you afloat on the ocean, and you need a sail that helps you move around using the wind, right? So he thinks of the needs, different needs that are the sail, different needs that are this actual boat. Maybe he has needs that are this thing that keeps it up. But that's what he's talking about. Very interesting idea. It's really cool. I barely came across this the other day, very recently, this week. But I've thought about it like this. It works. It's just, these are just concepts, understanding our psychology. I like this because it's like the idea of building something. I think of designing my life like building something up. If catastrophes happen, you have to rebuild again. I was laid off, and it meant that I didn't have an income anymore. So it meant something went very wrong here. So satisfying these needs became a lot harder. I kind of had to build the pyramid back up again. And so then what I realized is like, if I want to build taller, if I want to build a wider tip of the pyramid, I got to make sure the base can handle it. Like you can only build a pyramid so tall with a certain size base. If you want to build taller, you got to build a bigger base. Like if I want a wider tip, like I got to build a wider base. I can't just like try to open up these ones like so big. It's bigger than the base. So that's why I like thinking about it that way.